get everybody unmuted here. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Fish and Grits Live. Today, you can see that it's not just three of us in here. We are joined by a very special guest today, Josh Brooks. He is the current athletic director for the University of Georgia. He was named the J. Reed Parker Director of Athletics January 6, 2021, after serving 11 years as the Senior Deputy Director of Athletics. Josh, we extend a very warm welcome to you and thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today, sir?
Great. Thanks for having me. Glad I could be on the show.
Oh yeah, we were looking around, we're like, it'd be cool if we could talk to Josh, and we sent that email and I got the response. I was like,
woo!
Awesome. That is really cool because we got several listeners who are huge UGA fans. Mm-hmm. Micah also is a huge UGA fan. Marco and I, not so much, but you think you can kind of see where my allegiances lie behind you.
It's in the family, though. My cousin went there. Yeah.
Give me time. We can convert you.
How you doing, though, today?
I'm doing great. It's a good Monday. It's always, you come off the weekend with a lot of stuff. Monday's always moving fast, but been a productive day. So it's been a good Monday, so I'm excited. We're getting close to our fall sports kicking off. This is always an exciting time of the year. School's about to start. Everything is firing back up and getting ready to get rolling.
Oh yeah, it's a hot Monday at that too.
Yes, we got a little reprieve last week, and I think now we're getting some true southern heat.
All right, some true August weather.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, Marco, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah. So basically, whenever we have guests on, we always like to, before we get into like where you're at now, we like to start from the very beginning and sort of ask you, personal questions from the start. So we want to ask you to describe yourself growing up. Where are you from? When did you start having a passion for sports? Just in a nutshell there.
Yeah. So I grew up in South Louisiana in a town called Hammond, which is about 45 minutes north of New Orleans. And I was the kid on the playground that would always set up the game and say, all right, here's what we're playing. Here are the rules. Let's pick teams. And it's not because I was the best. I just wanted to get the game going, first of all, but I just wanted to make sure it was fair and everything. So I was always that kid that was always organized and everything and getting the playground straight on, all right, here are the rules. Here's what we're going to do. Let's go. And I, of course, as a kid, you always want to be, everybody wants to be a professional football player, basketball player, whatever. I came to the realization in high school that probably wasn't going to happen. So I was like, I want to be a coach. That was the next step. I want to be a football coach. I want to be an NFL coach or a college football coach. So I basically said, I went on the mission of saying, what is it going to take for me to become a college football coach, especially if I don't become a college football student athlete? I debated with the thought of walking on, but I didn't think that was a great idea. But I got an opportunity to volunteer in the equipment room at LSU and literally just off the street volunteering, working my way on to trying to get a scholarship spot because they had, back then, 12 student managers would be on some level, starter level of scholarship, different levels depending on how much seniority you had. And I was able to go to LSU with the Louisiana version of Hope. It was called TOPS. So I got my tuition paid for through that way. I was working at the grocery store to make money. I needed this job. I needed to earn a spot to keep stay enrolled and be able to pay to go there. And I worked my butt off. And after one semester, I got hired. So the spring of my freshman year, I was as a equipment manager. Going into my junior year, Nick Saban became the head football coach. Jimbo Fisher was offensive coordinator. I was assigned to work with Jimbo, and I was his student manager for 2 years. And going into my senior year, he let me start sitting in meetings to really start learning and being able to get some experience as a student coach. And then I was able to parlay that into getting a grad assistant job at Louisiana Monroe. So that's how the career started. I worked at Louisiana Monroe for a couple of years.
Okay. Pause. We're gonna get to some of that. You're doing good when you start answering all the questions we got lined up for you.
Okay.
But so before we jump into too deep into the LSU thing, so you mentioned that you were the kid that everybody obviously wants to play sports. What sports did you play? Let's just go to high school. Let's skip all like the.
Okay, yeah, because I could. We get a lot of games in elementary. High school. It was mainly football and track.
Okay.
I threw javelin and played football. Those are the two that I spent most of my time on. I dabbled with some other stuff, but it was mainly just football and track.
Okay, yeah, with javelin, I have so much respect now for javelin. And what's the dude who was breaking all the records in the Olympics with the shot put?
Oh,
Shot
yeah.
put, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's
Hey,
so impressive.
that's my realm, bro. That's what I went to college on.
All right, and then just the other question leading into the LSU. So, growing up, being in Louisiana as you were you an LSU fan the whole time, like before you decided to go there, or who were you a fan of growing up? I guess you can cover the whole gambit from college to pro.
Yeah, so I was an LSU fan growing up. My first year really experiencing sports that my older brother kind of took me under his wing and taught me sports was around 85, 86. So the Mets were good at baseball. So I loved Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden. The
Nice.
Celtics were good at basketball. So I loved Larry Bird. And then the Bears were good at football. So I loved Walter Payton and that whole crew. So I was a little bit of a 5-year-old bandwagon fan of all those teams, right? Those fandoms faded away, but those individuals still became, those core people were people I rooted for. Growing up in Louisiana, you don't have baseball, so you watch the Cubs on WGN or you watch a Braves game on Turner. So it's kind of between the Braves and the Cubs, which I know is weird because they play each other so much, but in Louisiana, that's just who you watch. But
Right.
yeah, I was an LSU fan. I will say now, though, that as much respect I have for them, I have 11 years at Georgia and many years Louisiana Monroe. You kind of get over that that sense of what you rooted for as a kid because you spend so much time away
Right.
that you reinvent yourself and really
Right.
focus where you're at now.
For the program. That's right.
I'm sure that is a struggle to kind of, once you get into this level of athletics and you start accepting jobs, UGA being LSU's rival, or maybe not rival, but someone they play frequently and they compete against. I'm sure that is an inner struggle that you got to go through there for a little while.
It was early on at Monroe, but you get over it really quickly, especially when you're at Louisiana Monroe, because you feel like the little brother in-state institution. So you begin to resent LSU a little bit, and you get over it quickly. And then the people that you were there move on. So you really start rooting for people more than anything else as you make connections in this business. Coaches or individuals that go to different schools, you start rooting for those schools or those people at different places. And if I look back at the institution I went to, so many people changed over. It's not the same place that I worked at. So it's easy to transition. And look, all my children were born here in Athens. So it's been an easy thing to make Athens my home. And this is a place that I hope and intend to spend the rest of my career at.
Very cool. You had mentioned a name there that still has a wound in my side with Jimbo Fisher there, the way he left my Seminoles. I've heard nothing but great things. He did. I mean, he's an excellent coach, and I appreciate everything he did for us. And it's just a little bit kind of like that bitter ex. You're like, oh man. But so when you were at LSU, you made a decision to pursue kinesiology. And at what point did you make that pivot into sports management? I know you had mentioned a little bit earlier about that natural inclination that you had. Did that tie into that decision to lead into sports management?
Well, I saw the kinesiology through at LSU. That was basically the degree path if you wanted to get into sports. So I saw that through. And then when I was working here later on in 2013, 14, I knew I wanted to go ahead and click that box, go ahead and get it done, get my master's done. And it made the most sense here. We have a great sports management program here at the University of Georgia. So I wanted to go ahead and get that done and transition into that area in terms of graduate school.
You're muted.
Oh, I muted myself. My apologies. Yeah, I definitely get that path. I pursued that very briefly there as I try to get into it, and I understand and I appreciate the hard work you put in. That's a hard field to get into and make a name for yourself. So you've obviously got a good work ethic behind you. So touching on that work ethic though, so making that transition from your position at LSU to ULM, what was that? How did you make that transition? For people out there.
It's a great question because you have to take a leap of faith, right? Because I actually was on path to graduate LSU in 4.5 years, and I was going to go another fall, and then try to get a grad assistantship there. And I had a buddy that went to Louisiana Monroe and said, hey, if you can go ahead and speed up and graduate right now, this spring, this summer, there's a job for you waiting right now that you can start in August at Louisiana Monroe. So I jumped on that and I changed my spring schedule, changed my summer schedule, graduated, got finished in the summer to take that job. A lot of people said, hey, you don't do that. Stay here. Something will open up. And I said, I can't risk it. you see promises. I can't wait on that. Here's an opportunity to go right now. And I also thought, and this is the advice I give a lot of young people is don't get caught up in the big school competition. For me at that time, and everyone is entitled to their own experiences, but for me at that time, Louisiana was the best place for me because I went to a school that did not have a big staff, and it gave me an opportunity to do many things. I got to work in recruiting. I got to work in scout team coach, got to help break down film, got to work in operations. I got to do so many experiences that when my grad assistantship was up, the coach offered me and I accepted the football operations job. Now, I would have not had that opportunity if I'd have went to a bigger school or somewhere else where I was not able to get those experiences. So for me, it was a leap of faith, but it was a leap of faith that paid off because I was able to really grow and learn wearing many different hats at a small school where I was able to do more.
Very cool. Very cool. You kind of covered the second part of that question, so we'll move on to the next one there, Micah.
So when did the opportunity to get that same position at UGA occur?
So the same buddy that helped me get on at Louisiana Monroe, we were equipment managers together at LSU. He left ahead of me and was a grad assistant at Louisiana Monroe, and he helped me get that job. Well, he moved on and he was coaching. He wanted to be a coach, and he stayed down the coaching pathway. He was coaching for the Dolphins, got fired in 2000, at the end of 2000, or at the end of 2008 season. He's looking for a job, and he sees a job opening at the University of Georgia as assistant director of football operations. Now, he's a coach. He doesn't want to get into football ops, but him and I worked together at LSU. And in 1999, we visited here when we played here. I told him Georgia's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. If I ever get a chance to work, that's somewhere I want to work. But he calls me up and says, you always said you wanted to work there, because I probably mentioned it a few more times throughout our friendship. And he said, you've always wanted to work there. You need to apply for that job. And I said, dude, you know how this stuff works. If they posted it, they already have candidates in mind. They don't know me. There's no way I'm gonna get that job. He said, you have nothing to lose, apply for it. And I blindly applied for the job. I knew I needed to make an impression on Coach Rick. So I basically took a binder and put together everything I'd ever done in terms of logistics, camps, clinics, travel, anything you could imagine that you could print. I printed, put it in this nice binder, and I called up his admin assistant because I know how football offices work. And I said, listen, I know coaches don't check their own mail. I'm going to send this attention to you. I'm sending you a binder. I'm applying for this job. Will you please just promise me you'll put this binder in his hand? And she said, sure thing. So I overnighted this package to Ann Hunt. She put it in his hands the next day, and he called me. He went through it, called me the next day, and loved what he saw in the binder, and then flew me in 2 days later, and then offered me the job same day as the interview. So it was just a serendipitous luck, everything kind of culmination come together at one moment, something I've been preparing for that opportunity. Because honestly, when you're director of operations at Louisiana Monroe in 2006, 2007, 2008, those years, when you apply for jobs, your resume my resume was going nowhere. I could not get an interview because I wanted to move on, take that next step. I was looking for mid-major jobs, a little bit bigger. I couldn't get an interview anywhere, and nothing, not a whiff. And I knew I had to do something big to get his attention. That's why I sent that to him, and just getting that opportunity to interview with him meant the world.
So, let me ask you, what was the biggest differences in those two jobs between UGA and UL Monroe?
Honestly, at that time at UGA, the football operations world was a little new to them.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of Coach Rick came from the old school Coach Bowden way, where they, it was this is the way we always do it. They had a good thing going, very systematic way they've been doing things. I was able to reinvent the way we did things at Louisiana Monroe and come up with, all right, here's how we travel, here's how we share information, here's the itinerary cards, and had a very organized way that I developed over a few years that I was able to bring in a new way to do things. And I had resources to do it, which at Louisiana Monroe, I mean, you plan a team dinner at the hotel and it's like, all right, here's how much we could spend. They're like, all right, instead of steak, can you do this? I mean, you have to negotiate really tough, you want to get your team fed first class, but you have to make some tough decisions sometimes. Where at Georgia, it's like, all right, we can do this first class, start to finish. So all those crazy ideas I'd had over a few years I never had the money for, I could then enact. So we did little touches, these custom key cards that say, finish a drill with the Georgia logo on it when you check in, to fancier itineraries with lanyard, just all the little things that I wanted to do to make it first class. I had the opportunity to do, or now I could truly do a full menu of everything I wanted to do. So Friday night dinner for the game was first class, start to finish, things like that. So it was nice to have those opportunities to do things that you always thought of, but you just never had the money or resources or staff to do.
Okay. So what inspired you to make that jump to Millsaps? And how was your first experience as AD? Was there any unforeseen challenges, or was it exactly what you expected?
Yeah, so around 2000, I guess it was 14, I was associate AD over internal operations, and I was looking to grow because at that time I was heavily involved in facilities, operations, and I felt like I just needed to expand my portfolio if I ever wanted to be an AD. I wanted to get inside on the external side, the development side, and when you're at a big university like Georgia, it's tough to, like I said before about the GA spot, it's tough to get involved in everything because you're very well staffed here and everybody's already got their thing going, so it's tough to break in. So I felt like I needed to make that move, and I wasn't just looking for any AD job. And I know it sounds crazy to leave Georgia to go to Division III, but I knew enough about it. I knew Jackson, Mississippi, it's close to home. I knew a lot about Millsaps. It felt like a great place for me to go, where I could really learn, grow, make mistakes, learn from them. And going there, it was pretty much what I expected. I mean, obviously the budgets are razor thin and you have to get very creative, but I embraced that. I embraced the opportunity to get creative and think, okay, here's something I want to do. We have no money for it, but if I got and raise money for it, we can do that. Or if I cut this deal, get this sponsorship, we can do it. So it brought up my creative side and it allowed me to really do some things that was fun. And again, you can make mistakes at a place like Millsaps and it's not going to be on the front page of the paper. And I love my time at Jackson, Mississippi. Is a completely underrated city, and I thought it was a great place to live, and just really enjoyed my time there.
Is Jackson, Mississippi on the water?
There are some like little bodies of water up north of it a little bit, like in the Madison area and things like that. But
Okay. So it's a nice diverse area.
yeah, and the food there is absolutely amazing. It is really phenomenal.
bet.
Yeah.
So after experiencing your first AD job at Millsap, you went back to UGA as an exec AD. So what were the biggest changes? I guess since you were already at UGA, you sort of probably already foresaw some of these things, but what were some of the biggest changes going from that D3 school back into one of the nation's biggest programs? And was being the exec AD challenging as challenging as being the primary AD at Millsaps, considering the program size?
They each have their own individual challenges. The thing for me that was a little different was now I came in with more confidence, right? Now, after a couple of years of Millsaps, I've been involved with development. I've been involved with ticket sales, concessions, operations, marketing, promotions, all those things. Obviously at a much lower level, but it was good for me because at that lower level, my hands were getting involved. I was in the weeds of all those things. So now when I have a conversation about concessions, operations, I was running the concession at Millsaps for a period of time. I started from ground zero, setting the prices, finding setting the menu, all those things. So now those conversations I have more experience in, but it was also a challenge because all those people that knew me before knew me as Josh, the guy who was in charge of internal operations. Now, as I was trying to grow my portfolio, it was a little, you had to work your way in with some of the external things that I hadn't been involved with before. Again, the challenges are different, but some of them are the same. It's a different scale when you're talking about 3,000 people at a Millsaps football game versus 92,000 people at a Georgia game. Yeah. So the economies of scale are different, but a lot of it comes down to some core principles about putting on a great product, entertaining people when they come, treating them the right way, and thinking about the customer experience. So a lot of those core principles remain the same, transition no matter where you go.
Real quick, what is your favorite game day concession stand item that you've ever had, and also at the stadium now?
My favorite item was when I was at Millsaps. We created it. Our mascot was the Majors,
Mhm.
we created Major Dogs. So this big smoked sausage dog
Mm.
that we had a partnership with a local uh, sausage company there that we worked with, and that was my favorite item that I thought was pretty good. And that's something I think I want to work into the menu here. I think there's a correlation with Georgia low country sausage, smoked sausage, hot dog like
Mhm.
that. And then the follow up was, what is my favorite thing here? Or
Correct. Yes.
um, oh man, I would have to say, golly, now I'm gonna show favorites with different vendors, but I'll say, man, I can't pick favorites. You gotta make me pick
Okay,
favorites.
we can.
But they're all good, and hopefully this year we'll have a few surprises for you this year, some new things. I will say maybe one of the new items that we're gonna pop out this year will be my new favorite.
Very
I like
cool.
the creativity regarding the food. I love that, coming up with a nice little
It's always a huge thing for fans to get in there and enjoy a game, especially for fans that are also foodies and get good food while you watch the game.
right, like something unique that can be like, oh, this is going viral. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in little things. I think the little things become big things. One of the things we announced this summer is we took and this was a little bit copying off of the Falcons and the Hawks. We came up with the core concession items: bottled soda, bottled water, popcorn, candy, and hot dogs. Those are 5 core items as we're trying to take care of families, that we drastically reduce the prices on all those items. So now you can get a bottle of water for $2. You can get a bottle of Coke for $2.50. You can get candy for $2. You can get a nice size popcorn for $2. And now you can get a good hot dog for $2.50.
Yeah.
Now families have the option. If you're a family of 4, you can feed your whole group for $20 or less. And then throw a candy on there. And now you're, $22. So I just think that that's important as we preach being family oriented or wanting to get future dogs or future people in the stadium. You got to have affordable options for them. And if you want to pay more for the pork sandwich or more for the pizza or the something
premium
else,
item.
so be it.
Right.
But give the families an option to where they can get in and out of there for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I love
thank
that.
you
I
from a
love
fan. That's huge.
I really love
Definitely.
it.
That
Right.
$33 for a meal is not a good look.
Look,
Per meal.
I've got 3 boys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I go to the concession stand. I was going, what? I said,
What
and my
is
tickets are
going on?
free. And I'm going, man, I can't. This is wearing me out.
You're looking around like you know who I am, right? Give me that little the AD discount.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I got to pay full price. Everybody else is paying out.
Right.
But but that's one of the things I try to talk to my staff about, is always see this from the fans' perspective, right? Because we know what if it bothers me, and it's public records what I make good salary. I have no complaints, right? I'm not saying that, but if it bothers me what I'm paying, then I've got to think about everybody else.
Mhm.
You've got to put yourself in the fans' experience, whether it's parking, traffic, ingress, bathrooms, concessions. I challenge all our staff to always be taking that opportunity to step in those shoes and see what it's like, or just ask your kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Hey, buddy, how's that hot dog? How was the popcorn? And they'll give you, kids will give you an honest answer real quick.
Yeah.
Brutally honest. Right? So from 2016 to now, you were promoted a total of 5 times. So what was it about your performance that led to such a relatively speedy? I know for you it probably didn't seem like, I'm just, but a speedy ascent up the ranks. And how did your responsibilities change from position to position?
Fortunately, I had a boss that thought the world of me, and I owe him a great deal, Greg McGarity, who saw things in me. And sometimes he saw things in me that maybe I didn't see myself, and grew me as a leader. But I think for me, it all started back in the equipment room. One thing I didn't mention, when I was a student manager at LSU, I worked for a man named Jeff Boss, who was the head equipment manager there. A man who came in every morning at 5 a.m., worked really long hours, but made sure that everything by 7:30 a.m., everything was done, from the laundry, all those things were done to where he was ready for whatever the day brought him. By 7:30, 8 a.m., he was ready. And I've always taken that mentality. And as I've got kids, it's harder to get in quite early, but get in early, get your things done, stay on top of the little things. That way you're ready for the big things. And what that allowed me to do was, as I stayed on top of all of my assignments, then when the boss said, hey, can you add this responsibility? Can you look into this? Can you jump in on this? I was always ready and available for those opportunities. So whether it was in 2013 and he said, hey, would you like to lead the effort to put on a concert? And I said, sure. Or when it's something else that popped up, just being accessible, being available, and being willing to step outside your comfort zone, being willing to do things that aren't necessarily in your resume. You know, some people will say, hey, look, that's not on my resume. I'm not doing that. I was never one of those people. It's always like, hey, I'll do whatever, whenever. I don't care if it's a resume or not. I just want to grow and get experience. So I think that mentality and that attitude helped me be available for those opportunities.
Very cool.
So as now that you're the AD, can you describe a day in your life, so to speak? So what are your like daily responsibilities?
Golly, you know, I would say this at Millsaps and it holds true here. You can plan your day, but it's going to get wrecked right off the bat. You know, you're any given week, my calendar's already full with meetings, and you're trying to squeeze in times here and there. And one thing I'm always trying to do a better job of is making sure I'm in the right meetings, right? You want to be accessible. You want to be accessible to your staff and be available, but you got to make sure that you're not getting bogged down with too many meetings that maybe some of them I need to be on the back end of that meeting where, all right, you're at a point now where you're ready to make a recommendation. So meetings take up a big part of my day. And then we could be involved with meeting a donor, going to lunch with a donor, spending time with donors, going to practice, checking in with I've got 15 head coaches, 21 sports, 300 employees, full-time employees, 500 student athletes. So any one of them at any given time could have an issue arise. It could be, this employee has now been offered a job at another school, and how are we going to make an attempt to retain him or her, or we're going to let them go? It could be a student athlete. I mean, it's just so many things throughout the day. Each day is extremely different. I've got some standing weekly meetings with my exec staff. I've got standing weekly meeting with the SEC ADs, and we're, discussing every issue that's going on in the world right now. But it's a very different day to day. Now, once we get in the season, I'll spend a lot of time. I'll try to get to as many games as I can, being there. And that's really the best part of the job, is getting to go support my coaches and my student athletes and watching them get to do what they love doing. So it's going to be it's a lot of nights and weekends, but if you love it, it's not a problem.
Okay. So what has been your most rewarding moment as the UGA director, AD?
Whew. Golly. People always say victories, and those are nice. Man, it's really, the victories are great. They're special. Seeing student athletes graduate is special. The rewarding moments for me is when I run into my former student athletes. Like, I got to Georgia in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And that crew, when I was football operations, that crew, 08, 09, 10, were very close to me. So anytime I run into one of those guys from those teams and see they've got a family, they got a job, they're doing well, those are the moments for me.
Mm-hmm.
To know that I had a small part, an impact in a young man's life back in that, young men and women now I'm in this role, but back then, 08, 9, 10, I was football operations. No one had any bit to play a role in their lives and help them, shepherd them along the way, and now they're leading a successful life. That's what this is all about for me. That's where I take my joy.
I like the answer. It's a sign of a good person typically when they take pride in other people's, growth and success and things like that. It's a solid answer there. As far as the program goes, this could be football, basketball, swimming. UGA is a place of many very successful athletic departments. Are there any changes on the horizon in the near future or the not so near future that you would say is something that's going to set you guys apart, or help grow the brand even more, that you're able to share, or just even hint at?
I think we're growing the mentality of getting better and focusing on the process of getting better every day. And what I'm trying to do to make the difference, to be the difference maker, is really showing our coaches, student athletes, that here as an administration, we're here all for them. That's where I think we could find that next 1%, that next edge over other departments, to be truly student-centered. We've got great coaches, great student athletes, but if I can get everyone from the custodian to myself and everyone in between to truly believe that we all have an impact on every student athlete getting better. Because again, I'm going back to Jeff Ball, equipment manager LSU. He told all of us student equipment managers that we are the difference between the team winning a national championship and not. And we truly believe that. And if I can get everyone to buy into that and everyone feels a part of everyone's success, then we can start making find those little differences. So for myself, if I can make myself available to meet with a women's basketball recruit or a track recruit or a women's tennis recruit and find that one edge that maybe when they went to this other school, the AD didn't take time to visit with them. Maybe they did, maybe they did. But if we all have that mentality, and like I said, the custodian has pride and they want to make sure we have a kid on a visit that our place is spotlessly clean, and everyone else in between wants to welcome and show that difference, and show that we're all in this together. I think that's where we'll find that edge in time that it's going to help us in recruiting to show the difference and to grow the pride from when they're all here. That we can really, rising tides lift all ships, and we can reach new levels of success.
That's cool. Now, cycling back to something we were talking about before we jumped on here. If you had to throw on one song to get you through a bad day, maybe someone didn't do something they're supposed to do, someone got suspended, something. Which, I'm gonna narrow it down for you as well. Which Outkast song would you choose to get you through that and just to get your moods brightened back up? And you're like, all right, here we go.
This on the drive home?
Anywhere. You could be walking around the stadium with your AirPods in, driving home.
Spotioti, Dopalicious.
Oh, yes. Classic.
That beat.
That's a real Outkast fan answer for you.
If I've already decided that if I ever got to play professional baseball or any baseball, that would definitely be my walk-up song. But that intro is just, I'm a big lover of horns.
Uh-huh.
I'm from South Louisiana, so I love jazz. I love Kermit Ruffins, Trombone Shorty. I love horns. And anybody who can incorporate horns that way, there's no better. I don't want to call it a hook, but
that intro, the whole intro is just.
Oh yeah.
That's Southwest DeKalb, I believe. That was their band.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
50-50.
Yeah. They Outkast incorporated Southwest DeKalb marching band and all them into a lot of their songs because back then in that era they were just a cut above from all the other bands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going through some game day planning, and we're going to do some think tank on how we can improve everything. Like I said, from ticketing to whatever. And I said, I'm going to come up with a new rule. When in doubt of what song to play, just play an Outkast song.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. Just play an Outkast song. You'll be good.
Actually, that's actually a pretty good segue. I'm going to jump this ahead real quick, Marco, because we had a question from one of the fans, and it was song related here. So I'm going to read it to you. And this is straight from a fan. We have not edited it whatsoever. It says, "Can we please stop playing the same songs at Sanford Stadium every single game? Don't Stop Believin' and Living on a Prayer were played at every home game during my time at Georgia. There's no way it does anything to pump up the team or crowd. Football games are supposed to be hype. Can Mr. Brooks look into options to enhance a fan and player experience in this regard?" So I think you've already answered your own question on what you can do.
So I think that's a one we get picked on a lot, but that's we've really gone away from playing those songs that maybe once a season, one of those songs, because there are certain moments where Don't Stop Believing is great for like the karaoke camp, things like that. And the thing people sometimes get confused is every song can't be a pump up song. Every song can't be a Tupac hit 'em up. We're getting in. It's not. It's not all. Every song can't be you're ready to run through a wall. You got to mix in some family. Don't Stop Believing. Some, So you got to think 92,000. We're trying to hit multiple layers of people. Sometimes a great karaoke song is great for the family, great for the kids, and but it's being smart about when to play them at the right time, right? It can't be after a big turnover. And now it's time for. Fourth quarter, Kanye Power, Lights Flashing Red. Now it's time for that, right? So it's all about choosing. And we've actually been working. I'm drawing a blank. I should know his name. He's the DJ for Atlanta Hawks. He's also our DJ.
The game day DJ?
Ryan Cameron?
No, not the PA. The DJ. He sits up in the booth.
Oh yeah.
Who plays?
I know exactly who you're talking about. Well,
I'm so embarrassed that I.
Hold on.
But I will tell you, as a Georgia fan
DJ
who's
Hot
been
Sauce.
DJ Q Storm.
No.
as a UGA fan who's been to Neyland Stadium, I anything is better than listening to Rocky Top
Ooh.
all damn game. It's just like, oh my God, this is awful. They get a yard. Crank it, Johnny.
Yeah.
You got
Good old rock. Yeah.
Sir Foster.
Sir
you got-
Foster. Sir
That's
Foster.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
He's not DJ. That's what I was thinking. Sir Foster does a great job mixing it, and he plays a lot of the new stuff. But again, it's a mix. It can't all be. And the same thing, our conversation I have with them is, hey, it can't be all just the new rap that the kids like, because some of that isn't some of it's just a great song, but it's not really a call to action or call to get you pumped
right.
up. It can't
Yeah.
just be, oh man, that guy's got great bars and great, like that's great, but at some point it's got to be a song that's got that rising fact that gets you pumped up. So it's a
Right.
balance of all of that.
That must have been a young kid who asked that, because I love Living on a Prayer and Don't Stop Believing.
No, he wasn't a
People
younger
are-
kid.
We get a hard time on that, but then if you do that and you look at the camera, people are just screaming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a balance. You got to find the balance in that, because look, there's a lot of venues that play those songs and people go crazy, but it's an easy one to pick on that people are like, oh, we don't need that 80s.
Like
Right.
Crazy Train. Like everybody
Yeah.
gets hyped for Crazy Train.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, you can play. People love Kendrick Lamar, but not all of his songs are going to be great for a stadium. So it's finding the right balance of all those things. But I do think, and one of the things we're going to talk about as a staff is, I do think as we look at music, I do want to incorporate more Georgia acts, and that could be anything from the Allman Brothers to REM to Outkast to Goody Mob, or whomever. We need to think about. We are Georgia. Let's try to promote more Georgia acts. I think that's a great thing we always want to think about.
I love that.
Okay. So, let me ask, what is your general opinion of the NIL rules? Did you see this coming years ago, and will the overall impact of those rules be negative or positive for college sports, in your opinion?
It's a tough question to answer because we're still going through it right now. What would the final impact be? But I think it's been, it was a little hectic the first couple of weeks when it came out July 1. Now it's kind of smoothing out. Our focus on our end has been, our mentality is always going to be, whatever we can do within the rules to help our student athletes, we're going to do it. So when this becomes a rule, our focus becomes on education, helping them through it, because some of them are going to now be receiving income, and what are the impacts of that, and teach them through those processes. So our focus has been support and education. So we partnered with a group called Altius. So we're doing a lot of programming about, all right, now you do XYZ, you need to be ready for these other things, and really just focus on the education, because within the rules, we're actually not allowed to arrange anything, or we're not allowed to be a part of any of the deals. So
Right.
we can't go out and talk to this place or that place and set them up with a student athlete, but we can educate them. We can walk them through the process and really just be here to support for them.
But certainly, the UGA brand is gonna, and the fact that you're on TV more so than like a ULM is, or other colleges, there has to be some type of distinct advantage that going to Georgia is going to provide those players. And this is a major discussion. I'm sure you've been in discussions with this and with other directors. Do you feel like there needs to be some type of legislation, whether it be from some type of governing body or from within, that levels the playing field? Or do you think it's all fair and game, and part of being a bigger program allows you to get those better deals?
I think part of what we're seeing now is less legislation, less opening up. So I don't think it's going to be hard to go back in that direction. But yeah, that's what we've got, a great advantage, right? Because we're in a great college town, a big brand like Georgia. We're very close to Atlanta, so we've got the best of both worlds, having Atlanta in our back pocket, but also being a great college town and a big brand. So that will create some gaps between some small towns that don't have an Atlanta in their back pocket, and that's good for us. But there'll also be some, who knows what could be a smaller school in a large city that may create some new opportunities for them as well. But yeah, and I think a lot of we're going to learn this as it goes through, and we see the numbers of deals and the levels of deals. You'll kind of understand the baselines for a lot of places after a year or two to really get a picture into that.
Yeah.
Right. And roping in one of these fan questions, because it's relevant right now. And I think about this too, because I know when I was 18 to 21, I was not very wise about what to do with my money. And you sort of talked about education there, but is there any concern at all about, a lot of these young kids potentially getting big sums of money and what that might do to their lives?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're always worried about that. We got some really good kids, and they really ask great questions. Again, we're here to support them. But you're also talking about some of these kids that get these deals and later, or some of them right now. Not all, but for the most part, some of them are older kids or juniors or
Mhm.
seniors.
Okay.
They're a little bit more mature, and a lot of them. I can speak for our student athletes. It seems to me that a lot of our students are thinking big picture and aren't in a rush just to sign any deal. They're really
Mm.
trying to be smart about it. Um, but yeah, you always want to be conscious of that, and that's again why we focus on the support aspect of it, because we won't be able to be involved in the deal, but we can obviously help them, shepherd them along the way.
Okay. And then, so this is a sort of a football centric. I know you're over the whole sports program, but um, how do you feel about the impending expansion of the college football playoff? Are you looking forward to that? Do you think, or what do you, just generally speaking, what do you think about that?
I think it's something that's definitely worth studying and seeing where, for me, it's always, I'm selfish. I'm always going to be about what's best for University of Georgia, what's going to help
Mhm.
us get in the playoffs. I look at us the last few years, we were, 5 and 6 and right there on the edge. So of course I would want us to have that opportunity because I felt like a lot of those times we'd have an opportunity to make some noise in the playoffs. So um, I know our league's focus is going to be on what's best for the league. I think that we have the best league in college football. So if it goes to 12 and that means we get 3 or 4 or more teams in, then I'm all for it. And because I think that would give us greater representation and give us a better chance to do well. So I'm just extreme. I'm honest, but I'm just extremely selfish when it comes to this. What's best for the University of Georgia? What's going to get us in the playoffs, and what's going to give us a chance?
So
To be in
similar question, since we're talking about expansion, now that it's been officially announced that Texas and Oklahoma will be joining, what do you think, other than copious amounts of money that Texas is going to bring to the conference, what do you think a bigger conference is going to do as far as changes and of competition goes and recruiting and things like that?
Well, obviously, I think the first thing it does is expands our footprint a little bit, going to Oklahoma, and then obviously looks like Texas gets more eyes on our program. It's going to be some great matchups. I'm really excited about the potential conference matchups. We're gonna when this all when this schedule starts in 25, you're gonna have some phenomenal matchups week in and week out, and you really excited about adding the caliber of 2 programs like Oklahoma and Texas. Great tradition of academic success, athletic success, and 2 programs that have great culture, great cities. I just think it's a win-win-win for our conference, and it's going to be great for conference scheduling for visiting teams, visiting other schools, and for TV. It's just going to be um, a phenomenal experience.
Now, has there been any rumblings of conference balancing since, obviously it would make geographical sense for them to join the West, but has there been any discussions in the
Yeah.
SEC balancing out?
No discussions yet. That's something that the ADs will get in the room and start discussing here soon. Um, I don't know which speed at which we'll discuss it, but probably something we'll discuss and give some initial thoughts on, and that'll be something we'll work through in time to see what the 16 team makeup looks like.
And
But
last part of my apologies.
we haven't had any initial discussion on that yet.
Gotcha. And last part of that question is, does that not sort of de-incentivize the larger programs such as yourself in Alabama and Texas to step outside and play those smaller schools? Because now you can just play 12 really, really good schools in the SEC and say, hey, look, we play the best conference in the league. There's no need for us to risk injury of a player and, play a smaller school like an App State or so on and so forth.
There's a balancing act to that, and I think Coach Smart and Josh Lee do a great job of seeking out great opponents. We already have Tech, so if the conference schedule were to expand, we'd have to look at it and see. But we've never been one to. If you look at our conference schedule starting in 25, we've got a lot of Power 5 opponents on there. So we have not been one to shy away from competition. So we'll see once we know more about the schedule, conference schedule, then that may adjust some of that. But I think we've always been ones to step out there and hopefully others follow, because I think it's better for the game, more big time matchups.
Oh yeah, definitely makes more people tune in.
No doubt.
Okay, so I have to ask, as a huge UGA fan, and considering I've seen so much, there's so much talent, basketball talent in the state of Georgia. Uh, do you believe there's anything differently that we could do to keep a lot of that talent inside the state?
You know, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? We've got to get to a point of consistent success in basketball to then make a brand name where they want to come here. But you know, it starts with relationships with coaches, and I think we've got some great ones on staff now that are working hard to you know, establish and develop those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we've seen it with Anthony Edwards now break through, and for him to come in as a projected number one and then come out as a number one and showing the development we did for him, that begins to open the door for others, right? So then it's just got to slowly build momentum in time to where we become the destination that all the kids from the state and Atlanta and everywhere else within the state want to come to. But I'm excited about the group that coach has brought in this summer, the way we've been able to work the portal and really get some great kids in here. I just can't wait for that. I've been able to go to a couple of practices, and I'm excited to see this team get back together this fall and get competing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I get tired of seeing like the elite players wind up going to like Kentucky or you know, Duke, and it's just like, come on, just stay at Georgia, stay at home.
Stay home, we'll take care of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great facility, and a lot of good players have come through there, especially if they weren't highly touted. And you know, you mentioned Anthony Edwards. He kind of reminded me of the OJ Mayo recruit back in the day for USC when he was one of the best players, and he stayed at home. And
yeah, and that's what we can sell. So you come here, we'll take care of you. We've got great support, close to home. You know, and I think that's one thing I have to give credit to my predecessors for. We built a system to where we have some of the greatest student athlete care in the country, from nutrition, sports medicine, behavioral medicine, you name it, all the things that revolve around the student athletes' lives. I feel like we provide great care, and we have great facilities as well, but it all starts with the care we provide around the students. So that's our big selling point. And I think as we keep enhancing those things, hopefully it'll make bigger impacts in recruiting.
Just a small bit of advice from us: if you're ever making changes in the basketball realm, if the name Lloyd Pierce ever comes across the desk, just kind of slide that to the right.
Leave that man alone.
I know you can't comment on it too much, but Hawks fans hold a place in our heart for him that isn't the warmest.
Leave that man alone.
Noted.
I think that does it for our questions. And I know you got a couple more minutes here with us, if you're willing. We have some more fan submitted questions for you, and we'll go through those and get you those. But so we've got a former UGA player. I think he was actually there when you were on staff. His name is Ruben Filogi.
Oh, my man, Ruben, Dr. Ruben.
Yeah,
Dr.
you know him. Yeah,
that's my cousin.
He asked, I'd be interested in what UGA does for the well-being of Black athletes given the heightened racial tension, e.g. mental health, personal development, etc.
So it starts with several layers to that. So it starts with giving them a voice and knowing that they can be heard, and all that's going on in the world, but also finding ways we can make a difference in the world, right? Because we can tweet things out all day or things. So my challenge last year, in light of everything that was going on, what can we do to make a difference here in Athens? And that's where the program Dogs for Pups got started with Coach Cortez Hainting and our student athletes, of giving back. And we were able to do a lot of phenomenal things last year, raise $100,000 for Wi-Fi for kids in Clark County who didn't have access to internet, food drives, snack drives, coat drives, all these things, adopted families during the holidays. So giving back, I think a lot of it sometimes starts with giving back, because we know we got to impact the young kids in this community in one way. But then going back to what I said earlier, giving them a voice, giving them a place to feel heard. Some of it's programming, some of it's meetings, some of it's just time for them to share their experiences with others, so others understand, because you're dealing with locker rooms where people come from many, many different backgrounds. So a young man from South Georgia versus a young man from Atlanta versus a man from Augusta, and all, to really give them space to share so they have a better understanding as they're a team, to understand where they're coming from. And then just them knowing we support them. We're here for them. They can come talk to me if there's something, anything they need help with. We're here for them. Because I always tell people, I tell my student athletes this first and foremost, I don't have a job if not for them. They're the center of everything I do. So I want them to feel heard, feel like that we're here for them, their well-being. What can we do? So a lot of all these things just starts with just listening and being here for them.
All right. So the next one, you just mentioned Wi-Fi. So somebody wanted to know, they would like to know why I can't get Wi-Fi at Sanford Stadium in 2021, and when will beer be sold? That's what they question.
Wow, they hit two of the big topics right after coming off the top rope. So what we have done, we do not have Wi-Fi in Sanford. It is a very expensive project to undertake. What we have done is we partner with phone companies to expand 4G and really do the cell repeaters. We have great signal in the stadium now. We rolled it out last year. Didn't make much difference because the stadium capacity was limited. We'll really get a better feel of how that's working this year. It was a massive integration of the cell repeaters and the antennas and the boosters. See how that goes. You got to be current on the technology in there. Hopefully the 4G, 5G, all that stuff will keep moving in a pathway where we going down that pathway versus Wi-Fi. I'll be honest, I'm hesitant to spend $5, $6, $7 million on a Wi-Fi project because most of the big venues I've been to, when you log into their Wi-Fi, I have trouble with it anyway. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna spend that kind of money, I need a 100% guarantee it's not gonna get bogged down.
Mhm.
And I think that we're getting a lot better with some of the repeaters and cell phones. So that's something that we're constantly evaluating. As for beer, that's something we're discussing and looking into. I don't have a timeline on it yet, but it's something that I've been a part of at Louisiana Monroe, been a part of it at Millsaps. I do think it could bring atmosphere to the game and hopefully when you do things like that, it curbs people's drinking before games and slows them down since they know they can drink it at the game. So we'll see. It's something that's been discussed, but I don't have a timeline for it just yet.
All right. Someone asked this question about how is Josh working to partner with the local community to make sure players are rewarded under the NIL, but you already sort of said that y'all aren't allowed to do it with that. So that's the answer to that question.
All right. So I want to ask, we got a question says, are there any plans to update the track and field facilities? Because basically to upgrade so they can potentially get a bigger, a top caliber meet sometime.
Yeah, that's not in the immediate plans right now. Our focus right now is the facility, being able to train our student athletes right now and provide them all the training they need. And I think one of the stories that doesn't get told with our track program is we have great facilities for training and them being able to develop between what they get done in the indoor and our outdoor facility. But that's something maybe one day in the future, way down the road, we'll see. But right now the focus is on being able to develop and train them here. Hosting big track meets, that's not that big of a deal in this sport because really you're just trying to qualify student athletes to get to regionals or SECs or nationals. But I'm a big track fan, so of course I'd love that one day. It's just not on the immediate priority list of our focus.
And this is sort of a quick one, but as a Louisiana boy, you got cash money or no limit?
Ooh.
Ooh, oh man. So I got to go no limit first because that was when I was in high school. It was, and y'all. I hope y'all are old enough. Y'all may be too young. I'm sure my age. Y'all got to go back and look at Mystical's old stuff. When I was in high school, that was very popular.
Oh yeah.
No limit was first, but and then, I was right there in high school when that was coming out. I mean, people were literally selling CDs at high school. Like the whole ground force of just of what Master P did was pretty amazing for him to start that company and do it on his own. I actually just saw a phenomenal documentary on bounce music in New Orleans on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It's basically the series is like the story of rap, and one episode is all about how bounce music got started in New Orleans, and it's pretty amazing. But I got to give the edge again. I'm giving the edge to No Limit because of my early love of Mystical. in the early days. And
Uh,
man right here, right here, as they say,
right.
the hardest song in the history of like, that's a great walk-up song. Oh man,
It really is. That's one of the best.
I went to a boxing match in Baton Rouge when I was in college, and the boxer had Mystical singing that, walking him to the ring. I was like, wow, that's probably the.
He's about to knock someone out.
I was like,
He's about to knock
the
someone out.
other guy just needs to leave because I heard it playing. I'm like, man, he's playing Mystical. That's pretty cool. I was like, oh no, Mystical's walking him out to the ring. That is pretty tough. But you got to respect. And Manny Fresh is telling a story in the next, and the story is, I mean, it's unbelievable how this all came to be and the evolution of the 808s and the beat and all of this. It's really, really neat. I sound like an old man saying it's really neat as I've described it in a rap documentary.
That's a hip hop evolution, right, on Netflix?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it's called.
Yeah.
If you have not seen the Bounce episode, like that, like where I come from in Louisiana in high school, like it was all about bounce music, and people, it just took that one song. You could be at the high school dance, the homecoming, and it's like the boring old dance you see on TV. And they play one song from one of those guys, and people are running like they're giving away things on the high school. Like we're just running to. Just heard that first little intro, you know, of Juvenile or whatever, and people are just running.
Yeah. Yep.
Good times. Very good times.
That pretty much does it for us. I know you got to get out of here, but we definitely appreciate your time. It was an excellent interview. We learned a lot about you here. And
I'm just glad you didn't ask me to rank New Orleans rap versus Atlanta rap. I didn't have to get into that debate.
that's we wouldn't put you in that unfair
Lil
battle
Wayne or
right
T.I.
But yeah, we appreciate you. That'll do it for us. We are Fish and Grits. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And Josh, you got anything you want to say before you get out of here?
No, just appreciate the time, and hopefully everybody enjoyed this, and I enjoyed talking to y'all. Appreciate it.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
And if you like Fish and Grits and all that sports shit, everybody, let me hear you say, oh, yay. Oh, yay.